Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I think so. So, I'm Karoliina Korppoo and I'm here to talk about city Skylines, which is a new-ish city builder game published in March. So, first about me, who I am and why I am here talking to all of you. So, I'm the lead designer of Skylines and working as a game designer at Colossal studios in Finland. I originally studied to be a graphics artist, but somehow ended up doing game design anyway, and just finished my Master of Science degree from the University of Tampere. I've been working in the games industry for about 8 years, a bit more, and started out as a QA engineer, which is a great position to start in the industry. So, and what is City Skylines? I think many of you might have heard of the game. So it's a classic city builder game released in March, and it's purely on tabletop computers. So no mobile versions, just Windows, Linux and Mac. And it sold surprisingly well, which I think is part of the reason why I'm here talking about it. So what we had expected with the previous titles, because we had been doing like small simulation games before Skylines, but something like 300,000 copies sold total. But during the first 24 hours, this turned to be really different. So the game was really popular right off the bat, and people seemed to find it really easily and be interested in this kind of product. And I'm also really happy that the users have rated the game highly, so they seem to be enjoying it and not only buying it, which is nice. So, and it's continuing to sell quite nicely. I don't have any official numbers, but we have done over 1 million copies, and that's enough for me. So about the company, because we are an independent game studio, so we make games. We don't know how to sell games, we just make them. Located in Tampere, which is the second largest city in Finland. We have a quite nice game industry scene going on in Tampere. We have many small companies that are really active and like to help each other out, and it seems that everyone knows everyone in Tampere. So it's a great place to be. And from the start we have done simulation games, and this is kind of what Colossal is about. We do simulation and we do it well. Currently we have 14 people, and this includes like all of the personnel who we hire. Not all of them actually make games. We have a CEO who does not make games. They just take care of the company. But mostly we have a team that's competent in creating simulation games. And previous to Skylines, we did mass transit simulation games, Cities in Motion 1 and 2, which were nice and found the target audience, and I think Germans especially like enjoyed those games. And this is a screenshot from the day when Skylines was launched. So as you can see, for the first two ones, we have really nothing on them, but we got to the third most played game on Steam, which is absolutely awesome for 14 people in Finland. So this was kind of the really amazing moment when we noticed that this game is really something that the players want. And these are kind of the main points of the presentation. So how is it possible that such a small team can make a really big product that can compete with really high-end titles? Because it's not that common that this happens. And what were the key decisions, like design-wise mostly, because design is my trade, made so that this game became what it is now, and what I think contributed to the success of Skylines. So what I'm starting, because many people ask, why didn't we go with mobile? Why are we not making mobile games or tablet games or this? Because this is a huge market, naturally. But there are many reasons why we chose not to do it. For example, having city building games, there are many on mobile devices and on Facebook and all of this, but those are really different. They are kind of light and don't support long playing sessions. You just go there and you spend a few minutes and then you do something else. So it's a really different kind of game than the old city building games where you spend like 10 hours just sitting on the computer and playing. So free-to-play model or mobile devices, that's not really something that this genre does well. Or if we want to go with the classic kind of game, it's not something that the mobile supports. And since we wanted to target the game to players who have like the older city builders, like the old SimCities, and this is a group that is not really high on micropayments and mobile devices and Facebook games. They seem to be really kind of conservative. They want to play on PC. They want to play for a long time. They want to buy a whole game and not pay extra for tiny transactions during the game. So to sell a game to this group, we needed to make a really classic game, or like a boxed copy that you can buy, and that's the whole game. And since we are working with a publisher, Paradox from Sweden, so they have a clear business model. They ship large simulation games, and they have a whole game. It's in a box. You buy the game, and then you can play as long as you want. And they only make like large expansions to the games, so it's not like you buy 5 horses for your war party or anything. You get a huge expansion, and this is how the business works. I also listed players' bad experiences from other titles, which might refer to some other city building game. So this was something that, because we knew what kind of a city building PC game people don't want. So it made things easier to look what we could do differently and what kind of decisions we could make to help steer away from that type of game. And the last bullet is something I touched on earlier, like is the social network city building game audience the same as for the classic PC games? And I don't think it is. I think the people who want to play social network games want to play in small amounts, and they go to a different game or are totally different players if they want to play for a long time. And this is related to the publisher and working with them, because they have a clear kind of a profile for a player who likes the Paradox games. And this is something we had to take into account, even though Skylines is not the typical Paradox game. It's not as heavy, and it's not historical. It doesn't have real world maps. Like almost none of these bullets actually apply to Skylines. But we knew that this is the kind of a person that gets the first impression of the game, because when you start to market it, the gamers who actually know the publisher will be the first ones to notice the game and try it out, and they are interested in the game. So this was something we needed to work with. But since from early on we agreed that we are making a lighter game, a more casual game, not as slow and hardcore as the basic Paradox games, we got some room to maneuver and didn't have to do the basic Paradox game, which is lovely. And this was really just a coincidence that we just came out with the game when this, what I call the vintage games revival, was going on. Because it's been happening for a few years that the older titles get redone or get sequels, and this is something that people really like. And I know for one that I love the Baldur's Gates and all of these older games, and it's been so long that they don't really run on your computer, or they look really shitty and just don't do what they should. So using the same tried and true mechanics and the world, perhaps, and making something new out of this is something that I really love. And Skylines is kind of in the same tradition, that we take the mechanics that have been working for a long time, that we know people like, and we do something new around those mechanics and try to keep the same feel of the game. Inspiration. As you might have guessed, SimCities were really something that we looked at, because that's kind of, when people talk about city builders, that's what they really think of. And then there is the Sierra city building series. That's quite different. We jokingly call it the communistic one, because the player owns all of the stuff on the map. There are no kind of free individuals going around. As in SimCity, you have to attract the citizens, you have to get them to move into your city and then just provide services. And in the city building series, you just build the whole city and all of the houses, and you own all of that stuff. And it's an interesting take on a city builder. They work really well, but they are not as sandbox-like as the SimCity type of city builders. So for us, it was clear that we want the SimCity type, first of all because SimCities are so cool, and also because for a really small team, we wanted something that when we make the mechanics work, then there would be this sandbox that always works, instead of making a campaign or missions or something like this that takes a lot of time and effort. And it's a different type of game. It's a good game, but we wanted a simulation, a sandbox simulation, where the players can be creative and just use it as they want. And for visual style, we took inspiration from the newest SimCity, because it looked really awesome. I think that was the best part of the whole game. So we decided that we want to do something a bit similar, so that it would kind of take on the good things that the game had. And when we started with the game, we came up with some guidelines to just make sure that we all know what kind of a product we are working on, what we want to do, what the final game should be like. And the first one is something that people usually don't agree with, because if you're making a simulation game, you would think that you need to do something really realistic. And I really understand where that's coming from. Of course, simulating reality is interesting, but it's not fun. So in order to get the game fun, we decided that when we are choosing if a feature should be made or not, we first think of if it is fun to play. Does it fit in with the rest of the features? Does it create fun play in the game and something meaningful? Or is it just because a real-life city would have something? And if it was only that because I saw a city and it had this thing, we wouldn't put it in the game. Only if it's fun, and if it's on top of that realistic, that's fine. But kind of going fun first, because running a real city is not fun, and we want the game to be fun, so it should be kind of running a city, but in a fun way, and not realistically. And along with the kind of sandbox mentality, I have the bullet about learning and games as learning machines. And this is something that I personally find really interesting, because for me, when playing any game, the main part of the pleasure comes from kind of mastering the game. I learn how it works, and I can see myself becoming better at the game, and kind of having the feeling of understanding how the game works and learning more about it is really rewarding. So with a sandbox game, when you can't really, if you don't have missions or campaigns, you can't really reward the player in that way, that you have completed this mission and have a reward. So learning and kind of making sure that the player learns and helping them out and guiding them towards finding new features and learning more, that's how the game rewards the player. And it seems to be working quite nicely. And the not punishing thing is also kind of with the same idea, that if the player is punished, they might lose interest in the game. And just having the idea of something going wrong, that's a punishment enough. If the city you have created isn't working, you have done something wrong, and you know it. And this is the punishment. I don't need to do anything extra on top. The player will feel bad anyway. And for the players who want to fail, because that's one way of course, playing a sandbox, you can do whatever you like. For the ones who want to fail, they can do it. It just takes some effort. So, and the main thing is that the players who are failing because they haven't learned something or they don't understand the game, they are not punished. They are just guided towards learning the things that they don't know. Because it's absolutely frustrating if the game doesn't tell you what to do, and then when you can't do the thing, then you get punished, and then you are even kind of in a harder spot, and recovering is really hard if you get punished all the time. So steering away from the punishment and towards learning and teaching the player is something that Skylines is doing. And since, well, with Paradox, we always have to discuss how hardcore the game is, because many of the most successful titles are really complicated, really complex, min-maxing and tweaking all kinds of stuff. So what we wanted is that we don't want to make an absolutely casual game, like the newest SimCity is really casual, but Cities in Motion, our previous title, it's too hardcore. It has lots of lists and numbers, and the player has to understand how much things cost and what's kind of the right number of buses on a line. So we wanted something easier, but not as easy as the new SimCity. And the last bullet about the game being more about the city than the citizens was really important, because we didn't want to have these kind of characters and handling, kind of having dialogue or anything like this. We wanted it to be so that the player creates a city, and this city is the main point of the game. So handling the city rather than kind of individual citizens and their wishes is what the game is about. And this also guided us towards making the sandbox mechanics, all of the logic working, rather than focusing on the single individuals in the game world, because that would have taken so much of our resources that the game would be really different now. Visual style, this is only light because I do design, not visuals. So to have the game kind of easy to approach and easy to learn, we always avoided numbers. Even though testing always wanted numbers, we gave them none. Because if you come into a game and you have something that costs 10 money, you can't know if 10 is it much, is it a tiny sum, or is it like half of your or all of your assets. So having a slider that says like small amount and large amount is much easier. And this way the player doesn't have to learn all of these numbers and things. They can get into the game easier. And it looks much nicer, and there is no cutoffs. So, and for kind of, because one of the main things when people look at the game is that, like how the cities look. So we went with this imaginary North American city, because it had a lot of these detached houses that are really nice to actually have in the world. They conform to the terrain really well, and it's easy to see how large an area is and how many people it has. High-rises are not as easy visually to kind of understand how many people are living in an area. And it kind of, the game starts in modern day, but it proceeds a tiny bit into the future. So you have these fancy sci-fi things, but only kind of not really fantasy sci-fi, but something that could be possibly made even today, but is not often in use. So just a tiny bit into the future. The in-game guide, this is something I absolutely love. So we chose to have no separate tutorial. It was difficult because we have done tutorials before and they have not been very good. So we decided to go a totally different way. Because in a sandbox game about cities, the player needs to be attached to their own city. So when they are starting the game, they have this idea of the city that they want to build. And if at first we take them to a tutorial town and they have to do stuff, and then just when they are becoming attached to that place, they are taken away and given a new map, like this is your city, now start again. And that's not fun, because what we wanted is that right away when the player launches the game and starts a map, they get to make the city of their dreams, not some tutorial thing that they have to abandon and then continue with a different map. Just kind of to pull the gamer in kind of straight away into the actual game. And how we did it is that we have a system that tries to notice if the player is doing the stuff they are supposed to do. So for example, if there is housing that has no water, they have these tiny icons popping up on top. And if the user clicks on the house, they tell that they don't have any water. And if even then the user does not build the water system, there is a pop-up pointing at the water facilities where those are built. Like, did you notice that you have these nice water thingies that you should maybe build? And kind of trying to make sure that the player, if they miss something, they are reminded that this is existing in the game world. But for a person who knows how the water system works, because it's not that different from many city builders, if they know how it works, they just use it and they never see the pop-ups. So it's kind of, it conforms to the skill level of the player quite nicely. So even for the really experienced players who know how the world works and have played many of the city builders, they might miss something because there are some differences and you could just simply forget. But they would never choose to have a tutorial because they know how the game works. They don't want to play a tutorial. So with the integrated message system, if they forget something, they will get the notice anyway, and they don't have to play the tutorial. So it's kind of getting around the fact that some of the players won't play a tutorial even if they would need it. And this way they only see the things that they actually need to know. And it has been challenging to try to identify all of the places where guidance would be needed, but it's working quite nicely. So mostly we get all of the players understanding how the game works, and within the first half an hour they get a working city. And if they miss something, they are reminded, and they usually pick up the skill at that point. And about learning, so Skylines actually doesn't have a game over state. There is a point in which if your finances are really doing badly, the game suggests that you can have a loan if you want to, or you can continue playing. So it's all up to the player. If they want to stop playing the game, they can, but the game won't force them to. So if they feel that they can still kind of get out of the debt and make the city survive, they can always try. And also the loan system is just so that if someone is just so bad at playing, like they don't know how the game works, and that's why they are failing. So then they get a loan, so they can kind of perhaps recover, and then they feel that they have saved the city from the brink of disaster. And this is something that feels really, really good for the player. So even if in reality it's not so bad of a situation, but if they feel it's a bad situation and they rescue the city, they become attached to the city and want to play the game more. So these are kind of the emotional states that I'm looking for in the design work, that we want the players to feel that they have done something for the city that's working, and they get this feeling of achieving something and learning how the game works. An abandonment loop is much in line with this. So if there is something wrong with the city, like they are not getting electricity, what happens is that residential houses tell the player with an icon that we don't have electricity. And at this point, the player could do something about it. If they don't, they'll get a more serious icon saying that, hey, now we only need the electricity. We are going to move out if you don't give it to us. And even if at this point they don't fix the situation, the houses will be abandoned, but they can always be reused. So after some time, if there is demand for new citizens, the old houses that were abandoned will be reused. So kind of the player is always reminded that something is wrong and how they should fix it. But if they don't, for some reason, they will go through the same loop again. Because if there are new residents coming to the houses, but they still don't have electricity, they will start complaining, and then really complaining, and then move out, and the houses are abandoned, and this loop continues until the player actually solves the problem. And this is trying to promote learning, like that the player would at some point notice what's wrong, and maybe understand what they should do, and find out how to actually give the electricity to the people, because this is when they again get the feeling of mastering the game. Like, I learned how to make a nuclear power plant, and it's fun. So kind of instead of having the whole city collapse and the game over if they don't learn, just doing the same thing over and over again until they get that thing is what this loop is trying to do. And another thing for the kind of learning is that we have these in-game achievements, and that's like the player can work towards these unique buildings that can be placed in a city, but they can always place these in future cities as well. So if they get the achievement, they can use it in later game sessions, and this is so that when you make your first city, it's not going to be awesome. It's usually quite awful. But this doesn't matter, because if you get the achievements, then you can start a new game and still use something of the old city. And there is this kind of a cycle that usually when the people have played the same city for a few hours, they start to come up with ideas like how could it be better, and they want to start the new one. So we really want to encourage them to start a new map, play longer, and kind of just stay with the game. And a few words on marketing. I'll check my time. Yes. We are a game studio, so we don't really do marketing. This is the publisher's responsibility, which is wonderful. They are really great at it. So what we did was that we participated on press tours if they asked. And something that we found out, it was really lucky for us, that the game works for streaming extremely well, because it's quite slow-paced, and it's really natural to explain as you are going, like what you're doing in the game. And I'm building this area, and now I'll get them some water from the river, or whatever you are doing. It's the perfect game for just kind of slowly playing and talking as you go, and that must be one of the reasons why the streamers really liked it. Because right on when they got the keys from our publisher, so many streamers were playing the game, and we always saw a bump in the sales if someone who was really well known played the game. So this was clearly something that we had not anticipated, but it worked really well for the game. And something that I really like is the direct communication with fans. We have the Paradox forums, and we have our own area for Skylines. And this is somewhere where the fans really come and they want to discuss something. Mostly they want to complain, but that's how it is. And sometimes they get really nice ideas, and even the ones who complain, they are really happy if someone answers them, and it's actually someone who works on the game. And they are really supportive, and I think we have gotten away with so much because they understand that we are only a few people making the game. So when someone comes to the forums and complains like, why doesn't this have a this and that and all of the other games do? So it's like, well, come on, dude, it's 14 people in Finland. We can't have all the same features as in the really best titles, the really high-end ones, because we simply don't have the resources. So we made a really solid base game, and we can expand on that. And it seems that the players actually understand it and are really fine with it. And modding, because this is something that we really wanted for the game. With the first cities in motion, we had our own in-house engine, and this meant that it was highly moddable, the whole game. And people really loved it, because it seems that simulation game fans are the people who really want to make mods. They enjoy it, and it's kind of part of the whole enjoyment of the game and playing. So yes, we wanted to have that in this game. But since we are now using Unity, it was quite a different thing to actually make it possible to have mods and open up the game engine so that people could actually do something with it. So what we did was different kind of editors and opening up stuff kind of slowly, and we wanted to hear what the players really wanted. So we have 3 kinds of modding, and this is also meant so that people who are not great at modding or are just interested, they could start off with the easiest tools and then proceed to use the more complicated ones if they feel like it. So we have a map editor that's kind of a standard. You can just make your own maps and then share them through Steam with other players. Asset editor allows you to do things like make a new park for the game using just the assets that the game has. So you don't have to be able to actually make new models or anything. You can use the ones that the game has, compile new ones, and once again share them and use them in your game. So that's really popular. People like it, and it also helps with the issue that if you have ever played the city builder, you know the point when all of the parks look the same and it's boring. So now it helps that the players can create custom assets that they fit into the game because they use the same stuff as what the game has, but still bringing something new to the game. And the modding API is like the deep end of modding. People can do all kinds of stuff with it, like someone made a new AI for the garbage trucks, which works really nicely. I like it, I use it. So and the modders have been so skilled and so productive, because we were thinking that we could slowly open up all of the features that they want, but it seems like they can really do all of the stuff already, so we don't have to even help them anymore. And design-wise, it's really interesting to see what kind of mods are the most popular ones, because that's really an easy way to see what people actually want in the game. And we have decided that we will be making the same things as the modders, but with a kind of not actually the same. We won't take a mod and put it into the game. We will redo it or try to tweak it and develop it a bit further. So kind of just as a guide for what people want in the game, the mods are really perfect for that, because all of the mods can be shared through Steam Workshop, so it's really easy to see which ones are the popular ones, which are downloaded the most, and just to see what people are actually using. Then I have a few videos for you. Let's hope that they actually work. Because it's always one thing to talk about a game and to actually show what people are doing with it, especially with sandbox games, because it's all about self-expression and creativity. So I have a few examples that I personally liked. Let's see. So this one is a time lapse about just a player building a city, and they have taken video and shared it on YouTube, and now I can look at it, and I think it's simply beautiful. And this is kind of also showing off some of the features in the game. Like, it's really natural when you start out. You have this small area that becomes the old city of your city once you expand. because we went for a really large map size so that the player would have plenty of space to actually create their city. And I think it's really important because this way the city will have kind of these time layers, like you have the old part that you started with, then you make a new center that's more solidly built and has better road connections. And it brings a whole new level to the game if you don't have to demolish what you have done. And this was also something that I really emphasized during the development, that we don't want the player to demolish anything. They should always be able to use all of the stuff they have made, because that's just what the game is about, creating the city. And it's really backwards if they would need to destroy parts of the city to continue. So all of the stuff has been balanced so that even if you get the new power plant, you can still keep the old ones. You don't have to really demolish them. They are still okay. They are not that underpowered. So kind of just having a huge sandbox with nice toys and plenty of space to play in, and this combined with the Steam Workshop that allows the player to have plenty of new toys in the sandbox. That's really good for the game. Let's see if I can handle this. Yeah. Oh, and I haven't even mentioned our lovely water system yet. So it was really just a thing that we came up with, that it would be fun to have this water system, because we hired a programmer who had done much work on how water systems work and how to simulate actually water. So because we could do it, we did, and we have actual simulated physical water in the game. And that's mainly just so that you can have fun with it. It also affects how the pollution in the water spreads and all of this, like the currents work like they should. But what players do most with it is just playing. Because it has a mass and all, so once they actually demolish the dams, we can see how the water starts to move. And this is kind of all in the same sandbox mentality. It's your sandbox, you can do whatever you like. And we as the developers try to provide the player with some tools that make it easy to have fun. So now the dam is gone and the water is coming. And basically the only thing we did for the water is so that on the pre-made maps, it's not easy to flood your city. And if you do it, because players will do it, it's fun, they want to flood the city. The houses just have a phase that they notice if they are underwater, they will be abandoned, and then when the water goes away, they can be reused. So it's not like you are destroying your city forever, it's just something that you can do and have fun with it. Because, well, this is sandbox play, having fun with the tools you have. I'll go to the next one then. This one is more about the community and how people kind of like to share what they have learned of the game. And the traffic system is actually based on how real traffic works. So if someone has actual knowledge of designing traffic systems and they know how to do it in the real world, they will be better at it with the game also. So this encourages people to share knowledge and kind of people love to, if they master something, they want to share that knowledge and make these videos of how to use the game. And it's also great for us because we have such a small team, we can't do all of the kind of video tutorials and all of the features, but because people on the internet like to share their information, this is something that they do, and it saves us a lot of work. And it's also that they do really high quality stuff, and it helps all of the players. And it's also kind of extending the play sessions even beyond the actual playing of the game, because even if you are not running the game, you can look at the videos or read the forums or discuss what's the best way to do a railroad or whatever. So it's kind of, it plays into the game. It makes the game interesting and encourages people to actually use it more and learn and have these experiences of learning how the game works and mastering it, and then going to the sandbox and trying it out. And I think it's a really natural way to play, along with, if you think about children playing when they are at school, they might think of what they will do after the school day in the sandbox, and then when they get out, they'll go to the sandbox and play. So this is kind of, in my mind, this is along the same lines, like thinking about what to do when you actually get to play. Yes, it's working. So this is more about my personal design philosophy. So always support learning, because even if you would have the greatest game in the world, but no one knows how to use it, it's not the greatest game in the world. And learning how the game works is really what the game is all about. Like if you think about Diablo 3, which is one of my favorites, it's all about teaching the player how to play the game, and as they proceed, they will kind of get more skilled, and then they can play more efficiently, and then they get new stuff so that they can play even more efficiently. And it's just that when you have played for a long time, you get really good at the game, and this is what should happen. And it's all about kind of making these feelings of mastering and learning, and that's what the fun is about in many games. And punishing the player mainly affects the players who need to learn, because those who know what they are doing, they will try to fail, at least in a sandbox game, just to see what happens, and something should happen. So there has to be something that is negative, so something that happens if you do things that you're not supposed to do. But because mainly the players who do things that you're not supposed to do are the ones who don't know what to do. And if you're learning, you're trying out stuff to see what works, it's not something that you would like to punish them for. It's a good thing in a sandbox to try out stuff and do all kinds of stuff. So especially in a sandbox game, punishing is not the way to go. And just having this, it's a clear motivation. If you are going to play a city builder game, you want to build a city, kind of to match the idea you have in your head, like I will build a lovely city that runs only on green energy. And this is what the players are trying to do. So if the city isn't working, that's the punishment, and that's enough. So it just should, there should be something negative, but nothing that really hinders your playing, just something that keeps you going. And I know that many game designers want to create all new stuff, like unique, never before seen games. But for me personally, especially when working with games as a business, I want to use all of the stuff I can. So I will be looking at all the games in the same genre, what has been done before, what could be used. If I can polish the stuff that's already existing, it will be much better than if I come up with something new and try to make it into this perfect gem in a really short period of the development. Like, as it is a business, so I have a certain amount of time and resources, and I have to make the best game I can with these. And this means that I won't be starting off with inventing everything just out of my own head. I will be using all of the information I can get, and along with the vintage revival idea, using the old stuff that has been proven to work is a great way to go, because it's familiar to players. It's easy to start playing a game that you kind of know what it's about and how it should work. And just combining game ideas that are already in existence and polishing the result is, in my mind, at least as nice and as productive and creative as creating something completely new. And the last one is kind of also connected to this, because some people feel that when you have a publisher and they tell you that you have to make this kind of a game in this amount of time, it can feel really restrictive, like you can't do whatever you want and you can't make the game of your dreams. But I see it as a tool for creativity. Like if I was making something else, writing books, for example, if someone told me just to write a good book, that's really hard. But if they tell me that it needs to have tiny animals and then someone going into a fantasy world and a lion, that's easier. I take these elements and I make the best thing I can out of those. So in the same sense, kind of when the publisher is telling me that we need a game about shooting people and it has to be ready in 6 months, I will make that. And that's so much easier than just do whatever you want to make, like make a game, have as much money as you want. It would never be finished. I would work on it until I die. So kind of having clear kind of limitations, working inside a box that has been defined, for me it is really interesting. And this one, I'm getting to the end, which is good. My personal favorites in the game. So I really like how kind of this old classic city builder feel Skylines has, because it was something that we really wanted to create and clearly something that the players really wanted to see. Because the city building genre has been really quiet for a long time. Before the newest SimCity, there weren't that many games coming out. And still kind of creating and self-expression are something that the human nature just needs to do. So city building games really tap into this need to create and need to self-express in a space. And that's why I think city building or kind of management games, they will always be there. They always will have an audience. And Skylines scales nicely with the player skill and interest. So both the in-game guide that only shows messages if the player doesn't know what they should do, and also having these kind of features that the player doesn't have to use. Like we have industrial specializations, like if you would want to use oil that's under your city, you can. But for a player who has enough to play without this feature, who's maybe not interested, they don't ever have to go into that menu. And maybe at some point when they have played all the other stuff, all the other features, they might go into that menu, then they find that, oh, there is this kind of a thing, and then they have more to play in the game. So kind of it can be played really lightly, and some people play it so that they leave the game running and go do something else and then come back in half an hour or so, and that's completely fine. They can't get as an optimized city as someone who actively plays more, but it's a sandbox. I want it to work with many different playing styles. So if someone wants to play it as a background entertainment, that's absolutely fine. And if someone wants to play it so that they sit on the computer for 10 hours and just play, it works for that also. And I think that's what a sandbox needs. I listed streamlined UI because the UI was something that we really worked long and hard on, because it's the key thing. If the players cannot use the game, it will not work. No one will play a game that has a clunky, hard to use UI. And I think we did really well with the UI in the end, because it went through so many phases, but in the end it seems that most people can really just pick up the game and play instantly, and just like it should be. And the mods allow for, if someone is interested and wants to play the game for a long time, there are so many mods that they will never get bored. And if they do, they can make their own, and that's also kind of part of playing the game, to create stuff with the tools we give in the game. So it's really kind of, as long as the player is interested, there is content to be had. Technically solid. We did actually an evening shift on the launch day, because if something went wrong with the game, we would have fixed it instantly. But it worked perfectly, like no bugs. Well, tiny ones, but nothing that really kind of, well, Linux is Linux, but kind of on Mac and PC it worked really nicely. So that's just, for the players it's awesome, because if I buy a game, I want it to work. And naturally this is what we tried to do, but testing is expensive and it takes time, so we just had to be prepared for something that might go wrong. And then I listed Chirpy. Chirpy is actually is the only character in the whole game. We have this Twitter-like bird on the center top of the window, and that's the only way to actually know what the citizens are thinking. So it gives out these chirps, and the citizens are telling you like how they are feeling, what's going on in the city. And it also was something that the players, I think it was because it's the only character in the game, it was something that the players really were interested in. Like they formed these camps, like the camp I hate Chirpy and the camp I love Chirpy. And then they discussed, like, should there be this blue bird or should it be removed from the game? And, well, we wouldn't have removed it anyway because it's an essential part of communicating with the player. But just having this discussion go on and the players were handling it all by themselves, we didn't even need to tell them anything. And it was one way that they actually were kind of excited for the game even before it was launched. They looked at the screenshots, they saw one character, and they were like, I love this, or I hate this. And then they went on the forums and told the other players like how they like it. And it was surprising, but really fun. And I think it's something that gave so much more value to the game by just existing. Like we could have had just a text box with the messages, but since we have a bird, people will talk about the bird and actually react differently. I think this is my second last. Yeah, good. Excellent. What we did after release, because the game was released in March, so we have had some time. We did a free update with the European-style buildings, and this was really interesting because basically no other SimCity type of city builder has done these European like block buildings. I don't know why, because it wasn't technically too hard, and the players really like it because when they have this image of the city they want to make, it's not always the imaginary North American city. They want the old European ones, and they want this old city center feeling to the cities. And that's really, like even here in Cologne, you can only see it. There is the old center, and then as you go further, the buildings become newer and look different. So we wanted the players to be able to have this in their cities, and they only seem to like it. And the tunnels were also something that we had planned really early on, but just didn't have the time to do it for the launch. But now they are in the game, and they work really nicely. And we are planning to support the game for a long time, as Paradox usually does. They want to keep the game alive for a long time and release large expansions. And what we want to do is always to give something free along with the paid expansion, so that all of the players get something. And if they are just not interested in the features that the paid expansion has, they don't have to buy it. Like you can basically customize your game by only getting the expansions that you are interested in, the features that you want in your game. And this is kind of the beauty of having a really solid core game that we can build upon, but the players can choose which ones they really want for the game. And then in the future we want to make more games. This is not going to be the last one. So, thank you. And I think we still have 5 minutes for questions. So if you have a question, please wait for the mic. Any questions? No? Oh, there is one.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I just wanted to ask, was it hard to find the fun? It feels like City Skylines is such a complex game that we would spend, like, did you spend a lot of time in the dark, like not trying, like finding the fun, or was it, like, what was the process in finding the fun in such a complex game?
Finding the fun in the game? Yeah. Well, there is something that really, in city builders in general, that they just appeal to people. And this is how kind of I looked at all of the older ones, and when I just, well, it's one of these magical things. You can't really explain why anyone is interested in actually placing virtual buildings in a map and then trying to make them feel good. Kind of, it's just something that appeals to the human nature. And as there were so many games of the same genre that had been done previously, we could just assume that this works and then build on that. So when we know that just making a city and managing a city is fun, we made all of the other features kind of play into that. And this meant that they are almost automatically fun if they can kind of expand that managing a city feeling. Any other questions?
Hi. Thanks for the game and thanks for the speech. Can you tell us a little bit more about the development time of the game?
Yeah, development time. So I think we had about 2 years for making the game. At least it's close. But for Colossal Order as a company, the company was founded in 2009. And what we always wanted to make was a city builder. But it was too huge project for the first game. So we kind of had it in the background. And doing public transportation games first meant that we could learn of how traffic works, how public transportation systems should work in the city, and all of this kind of played into actually making a city building game. So even if we had only 2 years to make the game and all of the assets are new, we didn't reuse old stuff, all of the code is new, but we had this experience within the team of how cities work. And traffic is always the end game content, really, of a city building game. So when we had kind of an idea how it should work, it meant that we had so much easier time than if we would have started without no previous experience of traffic simulation. More?
Kind of off topic, but may you tell us a little bit about why you switched to Unity from your homemade engine?
Why we switched to Unity? Well, basically, with the first game we made, we had a long time to develop it before actually making a publishing contract. So we had a lot longer development time than what games usually have. and this made it possible to actually spend time on our in-house engine. And while it was a nice engine, it needed so much work and was kind of not optimized for kind of, it took too much time to actually work with it. So we switched to Unity to have a kind of easier access and just to make games faster.
Hi. Hello. You said that you're going to make enhancements on the game based on most popular mods. And those mods were made by some people that maybe they have their 2 minutes in their limelight, you know. They are really proud of what they made and really happy that they get to be the top one mod. When you implement that in your game, then you kind of take away from them. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, so far we haven't had to make any big updates that would use the same kind of content the mods have. And what we have talked about is that we could maybe even credit some of the modders. No decisions have been made, but it's really valuable work that they are doing, and we want to give them the credit they deserve. And it seems that, at least discussing on the forums, people seem excited about the fact that they can just kind of participate in developing the game. So many of the modders feel that if their ideas are used, that's kind of a thing that they like, and they didn't feel kind of that the ideas were stolen or anything. So, and it's a sensitive subject, so it's something that we want to use, and just it would be impossible to make updates without using any mod content or anything that has been made into a mod. But we only want to make sure that the modders are happy with what we are doing, because they are important to us. Then I think one last question.
We have one final question over here.
Hi. What is the breakup of your team? I mean, how many people are your developers and artists? And did you do all your art, or you outsource some of it? Because it seems like it's a lot of art for such a small team.
We do outsource some of the art. We do all of the programming in-house, and even with art, we only outsource stuff that's really simple and easy to make. We make all of the most complicated assets in-house, and mainly the simple stuff, just so we can save time and use our resources for the really important things. That's why we have all of the most important stuff done in-house and only the simplest done somewhere else. So I think I'm out of time, but thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed